Good. If you can't start to wave, do things like, I don't know, maybe just let me know. You'll do that. This, and now, would you please take out your handouts that come with this? And I'm going to see if you can answer, as we have read through this first part, the answer to the first blank. Grace is not my excuse to sin. You guys got it. Right on. Okay. Let's close in prayer. Praise band. Come on. That's it. That's exactly what it says. What then? Shall we sin because we're not under law but under grace? You are amazing, man. Thank you very much. It once was lost and now is found. Shall we sin because we're not under law? In other words, we don't follow the commandments of God to get to Him. You know what that means? How many of you know the Ten Commandments? How many of you sort of know the Ten Commandments? How many of you know that they weren't called suggestions? Okay? The Ten Commandments, were they all the laws that God gave? No. How many of them were there? There's 613 laws. Okay? If you were to follow the law, all you'd have to do is follow the 613 perfectly, never break them, and then you'd make it into heaven. Okay? That's what we've been learning. Okay? In essence, that's what Paul's been teaching us in the book of Romans. How many of you have kept all 613 of the laws? No. Okay. Well, let me just check. Oh! I've always wanted to meet you. Jesus, it's a good thing you're here today. God is so good in what He does as He brings us to Him. And He lets us know by the very law itself that we can't get to Him by doing what is right. As a matter of fact, again, to go back to an old Hollywood movie, which actually we don't do very often, but The History of the World, Part 2, and I would not suggest you would watch it, but Mel Brooks, is coming down off the mountain as Moses, and he's carrying with him 3 tablets. And as he walks down, he trips, stumbles, and the middle tablet slips out of his hands as it falls to the ground as he was saying, I bring you these 10 commandments. When you break a commandment, you've broken the whole law. Okay? It's like breaking a fever. You've broken the fever. It's there. It's happened. You've broken the law. Not just one of them, but all of it. Does that make sense? Okay? You can't break one commandment and think, okay, I'm still going to get into heaven, if you're trying to get there by what you do. We've learned through God's mercy and grace that we get forgiven for all of our sin. So the question naturally comes up at this point, hey, if I'm forgiven for all of my sin, can I do anything I want to now? Well, you know what the answer is? Yes. You can. You can. As we have a wonderful Sunday school class that meets in room 201 in Bob Horn's Sunday school class. Jeanette Horn teaches it, just a marvelous class. And talking today about the end of 1 John. Is there sin that leads to death? Yes, there's sin that leads to death. There's things you can do, habits, practices in your life in which you will die if you do them. An easy one is speeding. You get on the freeway, you drive at 125 miles an hour all the time, eventually what's going to happen to you? Yes, you are going to die. You'll end up, yes, with tickets, you'll end up with a wreck, but you're eventually going to die. I mean, there are certain things that you do you're just going to die from. But you can sin, if you really know the Lord, you can sin and get into heaven. That's what, in essence, that that nature in us that had been the thing that kept us because it was our master. And we are owned by the devil. Very interesting passage. This is Romans chapter 6. Go to the same chapter, Matthew chapter 6, would you? Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. What does Jesus say in Matthew 26, verse 24? No one can serve two masters. You what? You'll hate one and love the other. You can't have two masters. See, and that's really where this comes down to. Yes, you can do any sin because you will be forgiven for it. Now that's really good news. Because unless you are Bill, you are going to sin. Right? How many of you know that? Turn to your neighbor. You are going to sin. Now, some of you don't want to hear that from the other person. I know. I understand. Some of you, I don't want to say that, Pastor. It's really embarrassing to say that to my neighbor. But you know it's the truth. You are going to sin. I still remember the day that I went, and I'll repeat the story probably as long as I live. But I went to my wife and said, honey, I am such a terrible, awful guy. I was just feeling so bad about myself and just my shortcomings. And you know what she looked and said to me was the most freeing thing she could have possibly done or said to me. Just coming with my brokenness and just admitting just what a crackpot I am, you know. And she looked at me and she said, with dear loving eyes, you're right, you are. She does understand me. She really knows me, doesn't she? Yeah. Oh my goodness. And you know what? So are you. We all are. We're broken, messed up people. We're what, Bill? Crackpots. Crackpots. Yep. We're all vessels of clay. We're made of earth stuff. Think about it. We're dirt. That God has amazingly transformed through something called deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA. Isn't that incredible? We fit into our genes perfectly. Because God has made us that way. But we're broken and we're hurting, and by grace we're forgiven, and He loves us, and He covers all our sin. But we come into that covering because we get a new master. That's what we've learned. We've turned away our old master, the devil, who keeps knocking on our door and picking on us. Does he pick on me? Yeah. You know, sometimes he does. It's a great thing, Job, first chapter. God lets us know as we go through that the devil can never do any more to you than what God has given you permission to do. What an amazing, amazing thing. What did we learn on the very first point again? What was it? Grace is not my excuse to sin. We are forgiven, we are washed, we're cleansed, but we belong to a new master. We don't belong to the devil, who has to ask for permission now before he does anything to you from God. That's a great promise. Remember how God said no trial nor temptation has overcome you that is not common to man? And with the trial or temptation that has overcome you, He will provide a way of escape. It will not be more than you can endure. You feel like it is. But God is with you, and He's maybe stretching you, maybe correcting you, but He's working in you to perfect you, to make you more like Him. And in that process, the devil can't do more than what God gives him permission to do. And as he comes and knocks on your door, he is no longer your master. He's outside your home. Christ is inside. You ever get the picture in your mind of different things? I get the picture in my mind sometimes, just habit, where the devil comes to my door once in my house, and Jesus gets up from the table, and where I'm sitting there talking to him, and he says, "Don't worry, Cliff." Pushes back his chair, a little gleam in his eye, he says, "I'll take care of this." Isn't that great? Wouldn't it be wonderful to have a friend that big on a play yard? Right? God is there. He cares for you. He takes care of you. He brings you through this in His grace. So it's not my excuse to sin, because I have a different master. My master is Jesus. I walk with Him, talk with Him. He's there. I present myself to my master. That's what the next thing on our outline says. I have to present myself to Him. I have to... What do you think it is? Somebody said, I have to do what my master wants me to do. My master is who? Only you can answer that. You're the only one that can answer that question. Who is your master? Is your master Jesus, or is it the devil? To quote Bob Dylan, it's either the devil or the Lord, but you got to choose somebody. You can't say, well, I just haven't chosen. If you haven't chosen, the devil is your master. And that's why things are so messed up. So who is your master? Really? Do you do the church thing? But is God your master? Or is the devil still your master? Please, if the devil's still your master, don't stop coming to church. You're in the right place. But the best thing you can do is to give yourself to the Lord who loves you and will cover you by His grace. That's what He says to us as He speaks to us. Do you not know that when you present yourselves to someone as slaves for obedience, you are slaves to the one whom you obey? Either of sin resulting in death or of obedience resulting in righteousness. Wow, but thanks be to God. Verse 17, that though you were slaves of sin, you became obedient from the heart to that form of teaching which you were committed. So that means I need to learn. I need to grow, but I can only do this if God is my God. So that next blank then is I do what is righteous because I can. And the only thing I can do, the reason I can do the righteous thing is because I am God's. I can't do the righteous thing if I don't belong to God. Am I making sense so far? Well, this is important. Matter of fact, let's take a look. We're going to look at something on the screen behind us, and we're going to do it under the emphasis of fathers, because this is Father's Day. But take this and put this where it belongs for you in your life, whether or not you're a man. Even if you're a woman, how does this relate to you? Are people watching you? I'm not talking about the paranoid sense. I knew they were. Do people watch you? Yeah. Little eyes and big ones. Or I should say eyes belonging to little people and big people. Watch you all the time. You may or may not have a biological child, but people watch you. I looked for other men to show me how to parent. I look for other people to show me how to live. There are people out there every day that are looking at you, wondering how to live. Do they see your master? Yes, they do. Who are you mastered by? They need your hope. They need your care. And through this time, even as we do this, that very next blank says, remember the people who can't have children or who've lost a child, who long every day to be run ragged by these precious little circumstances. People dealing with loss throughout our lives, loss of things that sometimes never were. That we would be gentle and caring and cautious and ready to remember that their lives, as valuable as they are sometimes filled with that hurt and that ache. Let them know how much they mean to you, how they've been a parent to you, how they've taught you how to live. Kay Freeland, thank you. You have been a wonderful example to me. You are a blessing more than I could ever say. And I watch you care for people and take care of them in such wonderful ways. You have left a legacy. You have a heritage in so many of us that you've touched. How many of you agree with me? You and Stan are amazing people, all but Ed, that I work as funny as Stan is. But thank you. And remember the care that we need to show to people. And do not forget, and do not ever allow in your loss, do not allow your loss to rob you of the opportunity to minister to others. As we are looking at this very passage, where we look at this, where God is speaking to us, shall we sin because we're not under law, but under grace? Do not forget that sin is not just doing something wrong. Sin is also not taking the opportunity to do what is right. And we are called to be salt and light into this earth. And if we're not salt and light into this earth, then what are we filling this place for? Salt that's lost its flavor has lost its purpose. God, give me my flavor. And He will. It's always amazing to me, the question of time in the message. But look at that next paragraph, if you will. It will at times seem long and difficult, but when your children, and remember they may not even be your biological children, but the ones that you teach and you share and you mentor, when they are grown up, you'll look back and wonder at how quickly it went. Don't let the what slip by? The years, the time. Don't let that time slip by. Don't leave yourself full of regrets. You know, I have never, and I've been with many people at the end of their lives, I have never heard someone say, I wish I'd spent more time in the office. As a matter of fact, I've also never heard somebody say, I wish I'd spent more time in front of the television. And yet, how much time does the TV have in your life? How much does it rob from you? your computer, your video games. I love them all, don't get me wrong. But they can easily steal from me and bring me into a place where I'm no longer obedient to my master. But I'll let the other one who's sitting there trying to interfere mess me up. And my influence on others. You see, and I can only get this right perspective by spending time with the Lord. There's no substitute for time spent with and that's what that blank is, your Father in heaven. As a matter of fact, our human fatherhood, our lives when we live as dads, whether or not we've given birth to a child, human fatherhood is not just merely an illustration of God's fatherhood, it's the product of it. And dads, cultivate your marriage. You know what it means to cultivate? Where you take a hoe and a shovel and a pick and all those different things and you get into the soil and you work it, you work it, you work it, and you get deep into the life of your spouse. You love her so that there is no doubt in her mind how a heavenly Father loves her. How her husband in heaven, he calls himself our groom. How he loves us. Men, stand up and love women. Now some of you are going, hey, that's what the pastor said. I love women. I don't mean try and take advantage of women. I mean really love women. How many of you guys would love to be the star quarterback or the best golfer or a super goalie? You know, seriously. How many of you would love to have the opportunity to do that? To win the pitching round at the World Series. You know, you're up there, you're doing it. How many of you would love to do something where it just says, he did this, it was so awesome. Wouldn't it be great? Think of Hebrews. So great a cloud of witnesses. Wouldn't it be so great in heaven to have people standing up there going, look at him. Wow. Man, I've just seen what he's been through. He got knocked down. He got thrown into the boards. He was collided with, hit by a ball, tackled by 3 of the meanest men in the world. He had all those things happen to him. And you know I'm not talking about those actual events. You know I'm talking about the circumstances of life in your jobs and relationships when you stand there and everybody goes, wow, he can't get up. And then there you are, not on national TV, but in front of all of eternity. And you stand up, guys. And you go again and you say, come on, team, let's go. Let's win. Man, are you with me? Are you? Man, let's do it. Let's do it, man. Let's get up there, man. Right? Come on, guys. Let's get up there. Let's say, man, I'm going to go for it. I am going to win. There's going to be no doubt that in heaven people are going, yeah! Wouldn't that be cool? Angels are up there going, oh, the king's won. I knew that. Man, I'm watching some people watch the King's game, and they're like just about ready to have a heart attack. They're so excited and going, whoa, they played their hearts out. Wouldn't it be cool if women throughout the planet were going, man, I can't believe how that guy loves his wife. When your daughter goes, that's the kind of man I want to marry. And heaven's going, yeah, I'm ready. Wouldn't that be cool? And then you show up in front of God and he goes, you think you go, well done, good and faithful servant. Man, if the coach pats you on the back when you come in and says, good job, man, you know what it's kind of like too. It's that kind of pat that's bam, guys, and you go, yeah, feels good. You get up to there in heaven and God goes, boom, man, Good job, son. How many of you want to hear God say that to you? Yes. So as you protect your marriage, as you protect others' marriages, as you watch over people, set your heart what matters for eternity. Lord, that's what it's all about. And I forget that all the time. But that's where I'm going to spend all of eternity. When time is no more. I was talking with my 15-year-old nephew yesterday at his sister's graduation from UCLA. Can I brag just a minute about my niece? Is that okay? She went through a time, she's still going through it. 5 years ago, she was rejected. 4 years ago, she was rejected by her father. He called the sheriff on her, said that she had forged his FAFSA, her FAFSA, with his name. Didn't. I mean, she went through really getting beat up. They went through, my sister and her 2 kids, just trying to scrape together everything they could just to get by. Psychobiology honors program at UCLA. She graduated yesterday, the 3.97 grade point average in psychobiology. Jessica did a wonderful job. It was just amazing. She took her MCATs. She's received a letter from Harvard Medical School asking her to apply. That's an awesome thing. You know, I don't know how much I got to play as a part of a dad to her, but I tried to do everything I could. I was proud of her yesterday. And she knew that her aunt and uncle were really proud of her. We're really celebrating that with her. Are there people in your life that need that kind of help? Need that kind of hope? Yes, there are. Put on the perspective of eternity. Let them know you're doing it for God, not just because you're a great person. And let's finish this up as we look at some other things that are good to do. Read to your children. Read to other people's kids. Read to your spouse. Read. Turn off the television. Kids, let's be grateful. Yeah, that's going to go over really well at first, I know. And you don't have to keep it off all the time. But even if it's for 5 minutes, turn off. Spend some time. Talk with them about cars, or dolls, or whatever is important. Share with them. And teach them how to confess. Confess and repent. Let them see you do it. And then consider your purpose. You are alive to glorify God and to pass on to your children that love for Him. Live for Him, love for Him, because remember, there are people, what? Watching you. And don't surrender to the tyranny of the urgent. Remember that it's all about Jesus, and apart from Him, you can do nothing. It's so easy to be hit up by the things that are at the moment and be discouraged and overwhelmed. But who already knows the answer? Yeah. He knew the kings would win. Because He is the King. His plan for you is to live. Let people know your purpose. Guys, are you ready for a good Father's Day? Yes, sir. Right on. Are you going to be a good father to somebody in your life from now on? Guys, how many of you guys will do that with me? Right on. Stand up, guys. Stand up for God. And let's stand up together, everyone, as we give to Him the glory He deserves. Let's go to worship and then let Him take us out to touch this world.